Philly is still under several restrictions 5 months after the pandemic started, while protests continue to interrupt throughout the city in response to budget cuts and Black Lives Matter. Three women have teamed up to create Groceries for Philly. We'll show you how they are providing much needed food to local communities and needed during the pandemic. An American teacher is back from China. He shares his experience with COVID 19 first broke out in the country, and an encampment takes root in Ben Franklin Parkway. The group fights for better housing rights. Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to PhillyCAM Voices. I am your host, Amanda Johnson. Three women have teamed up to feed Philadelphia communities in need during the pandemic. They have started the group Groceries for Philly. More now from Chantel Belafonte.
Three Philadelphia high school graduates came together during the pandemic and a racial divide which sparked looting to feed desert communities in Philadelphia. Keziah Ridgway, a teacher at Northeast High School, Tiana Kilgore, assistant principal at Mastery Charter at McGraw in East Camden, and Lauren Howard are making a difference in their hometown. It all started with a trip to Aldi's.
I just woke up one morning after like seeing all the back and forth and, people just talking about how West Philly and parts of North Philly are food deserts, meaning they don't have access to supermarkets and places to get healthy food. And I just woke up one morning and was like, I'm done my classes at 2 p.m. Like, how can I help? And the next day, just put up a post like, I'm going to go to Aldi's right now. Can anybody join me?
That's when Kilgore messaged Ridgway to see how she can help. Kilgore showed up to Aldi's but decided to call her friend Latrice Mason to help shop for food. Since that day, the women created Groceries for Philly. They have stored boxes of food in their homes and raised money for families in need.
I need to do something, anything. And it's like, God just threw me a lifeline. Like, here you go do some work. And it was Keziah's post that kind of pushed us all into action. And it was what the community needed, but it was also what I needed.
Ridgway and Kilgore first started their food giving with 2 tables that were placed on the sidewalk, hoping the community would stop by and pick up free food.
Pulled out 2 tables, put the food out, and that was our first go round. I think when we started, there was really no intention to have this be an ongoing event. It was just let's just go and be in the community. Let's give our people what they need.
Latrice reached out and was like, hey, my uncle has a spot at 60th Market. It's like a banquet hall. And he said he might open up for us if it rains. And what y'all think about that? And I'm like, all right, well, yeah, let's do it. And so we pulled up. And like Tiana said, there was people waiting for food. And on top of that, we only had like 3 tables at this time. And so when we finally got into the banquet hall, there was like so much food just like put in front of the banquet hall. So we had to like get volunteers to help us like pick that food up, bring it inside, and then like arrange it in tables. So I think the second day was like really chaotic, but we started getting into our groove. We had over 40 volunteers in terms of like people dropping off, people who were using their cars, people who, doing crowd control.
Groceries for Philly raised over $10,000 in donations, and over time, the ladies have expanded their shopping list to include feminine hygiene products, baby products, and household goods. The looting and rioting of local grocery stores not only caused West Philadelphia to be a food desert, but a divide within the community. That's when Latrice Mason and Moya Grierson stepped in to raise awareness and help any way possible.
Because it was specifically taking place in the neighborhood that I'm from, I felt the need to lend my services and, get out there and do what I could do, especially with our community being a food desert at that time and so much high tension going on. And I just wanted to show a better light of West Philly because we're so much better than what was displayed on the news and all of the media broadcasts.
Mason and Grierson both believe that everyone has a role during this time, and they understand that their role is to be a helper.
There are so many people that needed groceries, and a lot of the grocery stores were looted. So it caused those establishments to be closed. So where we currently reside, our stores are still open. So we still have access to get groceries without being hindered in any way. So providing groceries to people who actually needed it pretty much provided me to be a vital help to the people in my community, because there are a lot of senior citizens in that area who didn't have access to the care that they needed.
The Groceries for Philly crew team isn't just providing non perishable goods. The team shops for fresh produce to keep residents healthy during the pandemic.
Really wanted to focus on buying good quality food because we know that diabetes and heart disease and all of these various different health issues affects our community so much more than other races. And those are some of the compounding factors in why COVID is ravaging our community at a higher rate than other populations.
After each event, Ridgeway and Kilgore gathers their team together to recite a chant by Asada Shakur.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
For more information, visit the Groceries for Philly Facebook page. I'm Chantal Belafonte reporting for PhillyCAM Voices.
Ryan Halpin is back home after teaching English in China. Reporter Joe Kane talked to him about his experience at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic and what things are like now in China.
We're with James Ryan Halpin today, and he's agreed to an interview. He's a teacher in China. What do you do in China?
Now, these days, I work at an international primary school with kids from around the world, literally. These kids can't go to the school unless they have an international passport. So basically what happens is their parents are working in Shanghai for an international company, whether it's engineering, sales, or even playing music and entertaining at bars at night. And so we have all of their kids during the day. And it's funny because, we're living in Shanghai, China, and we teach them all in English. And then they actually have Chinese classes to learn Chinese because none of them are truly, Chinese citizens. So I live in this little bubble in Shanghai, China. It's just an amazing city. It's like a Chinese version of New York City. I've been doing that for almost 3 years.
What was the first indication that you wanted to leave? Were you kind of concerned about the pandemic?
We started seeing stuff about it on like January 20th. And I had about a week before my scheduled flight to come back home already for Chinese New Year, just to spend 2 weeks at home and with family and see my grandparents. And, especially at least the international community, we saw everything going down in Wuhan, which is still like a good 3-4 hour train trip away, thinking that, it was going to end before it even really started. Plus, we, selfishly thought it was really only going to affect the older population from the numbers we were seeing. So, really think much of it. But not long, probably about January 25th, a bunch of my friends started, getting the heebie-jeebies and jumping ship and leaving China for a bit, thinking that they might never come back. Here we are, 5 months later. So I was already coming home anyway, but then I just never got the chance to go back, especially with the travel ban from China on the U.S.
Do you keep in touch with your friends in China?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's the ones that are still there.
And how do you manage to do that?
That I usually communicate with people over there through Instagram.
What's happening in China?
In China now, things are basically getting back to normal. They're probably about 80% capacity now, what they were before all this started. I know that Shanghai Disney is open now. The life is just about getting back to normal there. There's still some mask, but overall, it's how I left it before the virus.
Is there some kind of a fine at all for not wearing a mask? Do you know of?
In China right now, probably I still see some people on their post wearing masks, in between areas when they're going from place to place. I know just a month ago, a lot of foreigners were, thinking that the whole mask order was done with, so they were walking without mask and they couldn't get back into their own apartment building because they didn't have a mask. I don't think there's a fine. It's just you're not allowed to go anywhere or go into a place if you don't have a mask.
Well, I wish you well. Thanks for watching. We at PhillyCAM News hope to see you all real soon. And remember to wear your mask. The life you save may just be your own. If you have a fever, cough, shortness of breath, and fatigue, call 267-491-5870 to get tested. If you're over 50, a healthcare worker, or first responder, you're first to get tested.
A group of young adults at PhillyCAM have produced 3 news stories in partnership with Arts to Work, a national apprenticeship program that aims to provide access to creative careers for those traditionally excluded from the media arts platform. Tonight, we'll take a look at their stories. And a recent murder of Dominic Remy Fields, a Black trans woman in Philadelphia, has brought into focus the struggles faced by trans women in transphobic and racist society. The Arts to Work apprenticeship, Jasmine Carter, Majules Montes, and Darian Woodward explore the media's representation of trans people with a focus on the experience of Black trans women.
In 2019, advocates tracked at least 27 deaths of transgender or gender non-conforming people in the U.S. due to fatal violence, the majority of whom were Black transgender women. Yet, out of all those deaths, how many did you hear about? What actions are we taking to protect them? We interviewed a trans advocate and they spoke on their experiences, struggles, views, wishes as a transgender woman in a world influenced by media.
Cis people who claim to be allies try to take that forefront of being like, this needs to happen and that needs to happen when no one's really asking trans women what they want. Like, I feel like a lot of the time we could be the center of conversation, but we're dismissed. Like, we're not really what do you think? Like, it's usually just like, we know this is bad and we need to help them, but no one is asking us how to help.
We also interviewed a media educator who spoke on representation on media and the importance of it.
I think when groups of people are stereotyped in media, it's problematic because those messages are being received and are teaching people, right? They're reinforcing ideas and values about people. And so when we see the same stereotypes over and over again of any group of people, it reinforces these ideas that just aren't accurate. It makes people a caricature.
Media for a long time has done trans women horribly. Like, you can go to the very first, like the Scary Movie franchise, and they had the coach that was supposed to be a trans woman and a predator. Like, you try to paint a trans woman as a predator. And you could think about it in a way as if when people first came out with Birth of a Nation and painted a Black man as a predator. Like, you representing people in such a negative light that, that that's not who they are. That's not the course base of who they are. Like being a predator, and that's sick to be compared to something like that.
Media matters. I think media plays a really big role in the way that we see ourselves and we see each other. And so if we only see certain types of representations, it's a problem.
It shouldn't be like you have to go out and find that history like that you're searching for and see yourself inside of, because I didn't know like until like I was like 15 about like Marsha, and I didn't know like any of this stuff that I knew until like I was like 15, which I feel like it's sad personally, because I feel like, well, if I knew this when I was like 10, knew this when I was like 9 or 8, I would have felt very, very happy, like, to see myself in that kind of history. And I think a lot of cis like people don't understand how important it is to see yourself in history, because they always see themselves in history, so it's nothing to them. But for someone like me, it's very, very, very important.
A lot of Black people are talking about Black liberation. Well, we can't talk about Black liberation if we're not talking about Black trans women and Black trans people. They're part of this movement. So if you don't care about your trans brothers and sisters, then you don't really care about Black liberation.
On June 13, 2020, the Say Her Name protest was led in response to the recent deaths of Breonna Taylor and Philly native Remy Fells, who was tragically murdered this month.
And I feel it would be very important to include queer people, or to include the fact that people work queer inside a lot of these history courses, so that people can see themselves in history. Like, like a lot of people keep saying like, oh, this trans stuff and this gay stuff just came up. Like, it's been around for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. But it's the history that we learned over the years where it's like, it's cis, it's white, and it's heterosexual. And like, if you're Black, it was, cis het too for a second, and like, the women and the men, and that was it.
I think we need to see stories of trans women about their lives, not just about their deaths. So often when we hear about trans women in the news or in the media, it's because of violence. And what about all the stories? What about the opinions? What about the concerns, the dreams, the victories, the nuances, the challenges? What about all of those things? Why are we not seeing that in the news?
A lot of people try to tell me my whole entire life I couldn't do this, like you shouldn't have long hair, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't dress like this. And every single thing that they told me not to do, I did do. And it made me the person I am today, and I'm sickening. Like, I just would like to tell my younger self, like, don't let anybody tell you to like stop doing what you love to do, because it's gonna make you the person who you are today.
The ad creates opportunities for the LGBT youth to develop into healthy, independent, civil-minded adults with a safe and supportive community, and promotes the acceptance of the LGBT youth in society. Take this information into account. Do what you can. Do not disregard.
The homeless encampment Occupy PHA has set up a tent community on the Ben Franklin Parkway. Arts to Work apprentice Ramesses Montesh show their fight for housing rights.
On June 17, 2020, the residents of James Talib Dean Camp held a press conference to make the demands of their protest known to the public.
Everybody homeless need a house. They need a house. The kids need a house. Homes. Need a lot of homes, and the kids need homes. Everybody need a home. Y'all got a home. Y'all got a home. Why they can't put them in your house? Help them up. It's not fair, it's not right. It's not fair, it's not right. It need their homes. Everybody need a home. It's not fair, it's not right. Kids, everything need a home. Food, everything. It need homes. They don't have their homes, guess what? We gonna stay right here.
The James Talib Dean Encampment is a collaborative effort by the unhoused people of Philadelphia, the Black and Brown Workers Cooperative, the Workers Revolutionary Collective, and Occupy PHA. Occupy PHA, which stands for Occupy Philadelphia Housing Authority, got its start on April 22, 2019, when Philadelphia residents decided to occupy PHA's $45 million headquarters on 2013 Ridge Avenue. We were able to interview Jennifer Bennett, an activist with Occupy PHA and one of the first people to camp out in front of PHA headquarters.
On April 22nd, I kind of like PHA had built this $45 million headquarters in the middle of our neighborhood, and it was the same neighborhood where they displaced a bunch of our neighbors by seizing their property through eminent domain. And they also had 6 auctions of their public properties, forcing tenants to move, and they were just selling them off, gentrifying our neighborhoods by disposing of their properties. And we were just fed up, so myself and one other person just kind of randomly were we're gonna go occupy PHA, and it kind of grew from there. We stayed there for 5 months. We tried to negotiate with the housing authority, with the city. They just don't want to be accountable.
After this 5-month effort, Occupy PHA shifted gears, and on June 10, 2020, it began to support the James Talib Dean encampment on 22nd and Parkway.
The city must sanction this camp as permanent, legal, and valid, and in no police zone. The city must stop all service days, encampment resolution, or homeless sweep, or any other activities that harass unhoused people, particularly if they have no option for permanent housing.
The encampment has several demands. These include transferring vacant properties into community land trust, stopping the harassment of unhoused people, and using tiny houses to alleviate some of the gaps in affordable housing. One of their core demands is to completely change the way the city of Philadelphia does public housing.
So we're demanding from Occupy PHA and the encampment that the city places the properties the vacant PHA homes that we have on a list into a community land trust for to be designated as permanent low-income housing. And we're also demanding that they work with individuals in other neighborhoods to create these same sort of land trusts with these vacant public-owned properties in their neighborhoods, so that we can stabilize housing in the city without having to depend on the housing authority that has already demonstrated that they don't care and they're going to do what they want.
This is Ramses Montez, and you're watching PhillyCAM Voices.
In this news story, Arts to Work apprentice Shania Waish, Jade Lewis McFall, Keish Dates highlights how critical planning arts resources and educational marginalized communities. Without substantial funding for the arts and culture sector of Philadelphia, these communities' voices, creativity, and stories will be lost.
What does art mean to you? How do you feel about the city's proposed budget cuts to arts and culture?
Some people, instead of who live in rougher neighborhoods, instead of turning to the streets, they put their time into their art or into their rap or their poetry, whatever it may be. So it's so important that we have these creative outlooks for the community.
We are the solution.
Art and culture bridges communities and gives comfort to those experiencing personal and social tribulations. Art helps people express themselves and their differences, giving space for love, happiness, and justice. Art isn't just a part of Philadelphia, it is Philadelphia.
Fund the black future. And I'm going to say it again, defund the PPD.
The city needs to invest in the places that are going to make it money. And the economic engine is the arts and culture.
Art really helped me know myself.
Opening space for people to speak up.
It's always important simply because that we're always forgotten, cause even within, I'm gonna give you an example, when it comes to Hollywood, cause I've styled a few movies and stuff like that. But even in Hollywood, throughout their history.
The solution to defunding the police and reinvesting back into arts and culture and other social services and educational programming, obviously, is that is the solution to tackling violence and to addressing these oppressive systems. Through our artwork, we are providing that sense of healing. We are addressing these real issues in our communities.
So I see it more so as not as a cure, but more so as a spark or more so a healing process.
The arts and culture sector creates an economic impact of $4.1 billion
We need 15% of that ridiculous budget, $125 million. The amount the PPD's budget has increased since Mayor Kenny took office. We're taking it back to support Black and brown artists in Philadelphia.
I believe 6 or 7 small arts nonprofits that decided to create a platform of demands around the budget, mainly, like I was saying, to fund essential services, to defund the police department, starting with getting rid of the increase, 14 million, and then also bringing it down lower, funding essential services like the ones that I listed, and restoring funding to the arts. So those are the main 3 demands.
To think about what these kids are being deprived of.
These are organizations that are providing either in-school arts education, they are providing after-school programs, they're providing summer programs, they're providing internships, apprenticeships, they're providing context for what these children are feeling. And they also work with adults too, but they're actually helping us navigate this moment right now, being able to give voice to the things we're feeling, but also provide an opportunity to vision something different. So the Cultural Fund has developed an ability to tell the story of the organizations that are coming through the Cultural Fund, where they work, the type of communities that they're impacting, the areas in the city that have the highest numbers of children, sometimes the lowest level of socioeconomic like buoyancy, areas that may have like really high crime or even low health disparities. The arts and culture communities that are supported by the Cultural Fund are working in those areas. And here we are with $1 million.
Creating this news story for PhillyCAM Voices wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for funding for the arts and culture in Philadelphia. If we do not get substantial funding, programs like PhillyCAM Voices may not thrive. If you're interested in getting involved and helping save the arts, you can visit any of these sites for more information. Or, if you want to know more about the artists in this piece, you can see their Instagram pages. I'm Shania, signing off of PhillyCAM's Voices of the first Arts to Work cohort, hoping in the future that there will be more.
This episode of PhillyCAM Voices, we thank you for tuning in. Be sure to go and check out the full episodes on YouTube and Roku, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.